Today we're going to be talking about positivity and positive thinking. We're also going to discuss the relationship this has to self-esteem. So what do we mean by self-esteem? Well, the NHS website defines self-esteem as the way that you feel about yourself. And one of the main things that influences the way that we feel about ourselves is how we talk to ourselves internally, right? Our thought loops, our way of thinking about ourselves and about our activities and actions. This is something which we have some level of control over, and I'm going to discuss how I have managed to increase my own self-esteem recently using these methods. Now, the NHS has a page on mental health and just various tips that you can use to improve how you feel about yourself and how you feel in general. And they say that the best way to improve your self-esteem is to treat yourself like you would treat a valued friend, someone who you cared about and someone who you wanted to talk to in a positive but honest way. Now, within the self-help and self-development community, there are a lot of people who really want to be moving forward in life, right? They want to be making their life better. And something which I think a lot of people do inadvertently is they will try and sort of beat themselves into submission and force themselves to get better. And a problem with this approach is that it can essentially involve being too hard on yourself. And if you're not careful, it can spiral to a point where you're actually doing yourself more harm than good. So the NHS gives some advice on this, and it says you should notice when you're putting yourself down, such as thinking that you're really stupid for not getting a job. They ask you to think, well, would I say that to a person I really cared about? The answer is probably not. Now, the NHS's recommendation is to tell yourself something positive instead, such as you're a bright person, you can just get the next job. And I think this is really important because when you are trying to do something difficult, like find a job or find a job that you really like, you want to be pushing yourself forward, but you really don't want to get to a place where you're just feeling terrible about yourself and the process of getting rejection after rejection is really hurting you. So you want to be moving forwards, but at the same time, you also want to be lifting yourself up, right? And yes, of course, you can learn from a failed job interview or a job interview where you get rejected. But the truth is that there's probably things you did right as well. And just focusing on where you can improve doesn't necessarily mean that you'll do a better job next time. If you just focus on the downsides, then you're more likely to go into it feeling less confident, less good about yourself. And what's really needed is kind of a fusion of these two approaches, right? Focusing on where you can improve, learning the lesson, extracting the lessons from the bad things that happen, combined with a focus on where you did well and kind of these positive self-affirmations that make you feel better about yourself and just help keep your mood in a happy place. But how often do we really do this? Do we tell ourselves that we're doing a good job? Do we kind of give ourselves encouragement? Or do we often just compare ourselves to people who may be doing better than us and just put ourselves in a kind of negative place, right? The reality is that if you want to improve your self-esteem, then peppering your day or, just peppering your routine with internal congratulations and well dones can really help, because no one else is going to do this for you, right? You might get a well done at work, you might get someone else say that's really good, but at the end of the day, if you've got the problem, then you have to be the one to find the solution, because you can't expect other people to just shower you with praise constantly, right? You need to be able to regulate your own mood to a certain extent. Now, to see where we might want to implement this and what this might replace, we can start to think about, well, how does negative thinking fit into this, right? The NHS website, it specifically says to notice when you're putting yourself down. And this is something which I actually talked about in my previous video on complaining, where I talked about how one of the most basic things you can do to deal with kind of inner complaining and bad mood and all that kind of stuff is to just become aware of when you are starting to slip into that kind of thinking. The reason that this can work is that negativity and these kind of inner complaining headspaces are not something that we necessarily consciously go into. We're more likely to slip underneath the emotion and not be aware of what's happening until a few moments after. And so becoming aware of these types of inner habits that we might have and the ways of thinking that we might fall prey to, becoming aware of when this starts to happen can be really vital as well. And it's kind of the other half to trying to implement more positivity into your life, right? It's like you can implement the positivity, but it's also good to become aware of when and where you start to fall into a more negative headspace. So this is about recognizing that talking down to yourself is not a very good way of motivating yourself or moving yourself forward. You can do it a little bit. You can do a little bit of like kind of self-flagellation. If, for example, you were on a marathon, you could be like, come on, let's do this, let's do this. But even there, it's not about talking yourself down. It's about kind of pushing yourself forward. So yeah, becoming aware of these kind of mental habits might help you to see through them and thereby help to improve your headspace and help you to just move forward in life. And that's basically it, right? These are just two approaches that you can take towards improving your inner space, improving your self-esteem, improving your feelings of self-worth. And they don't really require you to do that much in the physical world. Obviously, there are things you can do to make yourself feel better, like exercise, going for a run, going for a walk, lifting weights, all that kind of stuff, right? And that's all great. But the truth is that it's very possible to be very self-developed externally and yet still not really have your inner space under control. You know, this is something which I've honestly found has really improved my life, right? Especially in the last few days, actually, the last few weeks. I've been implementing both of these kind of strategies, and when used in conjunction, I think they can really just help you move forward and feel more free and loose and relaxed, right? And that's basically it. So I want to thank you very much for watching. I'm going to have more content on the way for you very soon, so hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And that's it. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.